Okay, I'm delighted to be joined by former Peterborough United defender Gareth Jelleyman. First and foremost, Gareth, the Barnet is looking pretty good, given the.
You think?
Well, given the
That's
conditions.
after a full day's work as well, Phil.
Yeah, given the conditions we're currently in as well. Have you let anyone loose on it, or are you just?
Oh, the curtain. Well, yeah, I let me missus. I did. Yeah, I don't know how the curtains have. Yeah, they have, but they're there, and I'm sticking with it.
I think that's what happens in lockdown. It becomes the biggest trust exercise ever. Trusting a loved one to have a go at your Barnet.
Yeah, well, she did have a go a couple of years ago, and the grading of the clipper fell off, and so she hacked the whole back up. So yeah, I vowed never to let her again, but then I've had to.
Circumstances change.
And she did a lot better job this time. So
I want to talk to you about your time at Peterborough. I think now, according to Soccer Base, your debut was in a league, sort of a football league trophy tie. Is that right? What do you remember?
If I'm honest, I can't remember that. I remember making my first real appearance as a substitute, like for a couple of minutes, and it must have been around November time, against Brighton in a cup game, in an FA Cup game, I think it was, and we were losing 2. I can't think, it was 2-0 or something. And I come on and I run around for about 90 seconds, and the whistle went. And that's all I remember. Then I didn't really have a sniff of the first team for the next couple of months. And then I remember Simon and Matty Everton going to Spurs, and coming back after Christmas. And then I sort of, about January time, I remember getting Baz calling me after training on a Thursday, I think, saying, I'm going to play you on Saturday against Northampton in the league, and obviously against a Cobbler derby. And I ended up that was my first full debut. I remember that, and I think we ended up winning. But and I don't remember an awful. I remember prior to it, like the night before, I remember writing down all the tactics and where I should be on corners and throw-ins and things, and memorising them, thinking, please don't make a mistake. But then, no, it went really well, and I remember having a really good game. So, yeah, it all worked out in the end.
That part of the pressure on, writing all that down on a Friday night before a match day, just trying to take it all in. I'd have struggled to remember it all.
No, well, that's why I wrote it down, Phil.
You can't go on to
and obviously I've played I've been in and around the first team, and so and obviously Barry's rants and that. So I didn't want on my first start to be subject to one of them, because I hadn't knew where I was on a corner or a throw-in or something like that. So I remember trying to memorise where I was and that, and obviously, and as I say, it worked, so it was okay.
Well, was it easier for you? I said this to Gilly when I spoke to him, and he said it was easier for him making his debut because there was good experience around, but also a lot of young players coming through at the same time. Did that help? Definitely.
And I think, that experience, they were great pros, as you said. You spoke to Andy or Eagle and Stevie and Sai, and they were great to have around because they really did help you and help you progress. And it was nothing ever malicious, and everything was constructive to a certain extent to help you. So they made you it settled you in, really well. So it was great. It was great to have them there. And as I say, we've grown up playing with most of the younger lads anyway, like Drew and things like this. So it's a great mix, and I don't know, it felt really easy and like a quite a gentle stepping stone. It wasn't like getting thrust in there. You're in and around. You've played reserve football for the last couple of years, and you're in and around the first team. It's not like a massive jump. But it's just the pressure you put yourself under, I think, because it's your first start and you want to make an impression, and you've seen what's happened to others, especially like with Gilly and Drew and I say Simon and Matty before that, and thinking, and that's what your dream is to do. So you put yourself under a bit of pressure because you want that, and to be fair, you put yourself under a bit of pressure, but it's a good pressure, and I think that's what you need. As you say, I never used to get massively nervous about games or anything, but have a bit of butterflies, but nothing too bad. But and I think that's a good thing for when you're playing. Yeah, it definitely helps you having that adrenaline there. So
What was Wayne Turner like? Because obviously he came in shortly after the Rotherham debacle that obviously ended in a 5-0 defeat, and when Si and Matty obviously left, and everyone was thinking, well, this is going to go downhill in terms of the league position. And then suddenly the second half of that campaign into 2000 was incredible.
I think that coincided with me entering the team, Phil. That was.
It could well have been that. I mean,
well, you never know. But no, he was brilliant. He was, as I said, I'd had some good coaches leading up to them, but when he came in, he just seemed to organise everybody, and everyone knew what their jobs were and what was expected of them. And he just seemed to make things a lot easier. So I know I learned an awful lot from him, and not just in that season, like the season after that. And I just remember a little thing like doing little drills. He used to keep certain players back. I remember doing so much work with Richie Hamlin and Franny Green and he'd get them doing runs, and he'd play me the ball, and I'd get the ball at my feet and have to play into certain areas and things. And so giving me options. As soon as I receive the ball in this position, I know what I should be doing, and then they should be, what they should be doing in that situation. And it helped my game massively. And I remember, I'm with Big J Lee as well, a lot. I always grew up playing. When I was younger, I always seemed to be as an attacking fullback, and I wanted to keep the ball and like run at people and play like short passes and things. But when Wayne come along, it opened my eyes to like hitting longer balls and things like that. I know, it sounds a bit like hitting long balls, but no, they were balls in good quality into good areas, and and that definitely helped my game. Definitely, yeah. It was a real plus point for me personally, but definitely for the team, as I say, the organisation. He did an awful lot of organising the team and where we should be in certain situations and set pieces and things like that. And he was a good character to have around as well. He was quite stern, but he was a real good laugh as well. And I think in his days when he was a player, I've heard some stories about him, and he was a bit of a loose cannon, but as a coach, he was brilliant. He had that strictness, but he also knew when to have a laugh, and he was really good.
It's actually 20 years since Wembley 2000, which is absolutely incredible, really, when you consider how young you look mainly. But I think that
but I saw the others the other day, and they were looking a lot older, so they were like 20 years.
That's the difference between someone who got a man of the match at Wembley and people that didn't.
Maybe, who didn't. Yeah, that's probably what it is. I'm not sure.
I mean, obviously that game. I've been speaking to Adam Drury. Don't remember much, obviously, because he came off with concussion. You were obviously playing ahead of him, weren't you, in the side, and then obviously dropped back when he went off. How much did you relish the opportunity of playing at Wembley?
It's every young kid's dream. So I remember, getting to the semi for the playoffs, and playing Barnet. It was there was more pressure on that, I think, because I know if you lose in the semi-final of the playoffs, it's awful. You forgot, it's forgotten. But I know even losing in the final would be horrific. But you've got the chance to play at Wembley, and how often is that going to come around? Do you know what I mean? So when we got there, it was a little bit of relief. But you're thinking, I don't want, you don't want to be losing here. All this hard work, because we had worked so hard, but definitely for those since January, we worked so hard, put so much effort in. And then it'd be awful to not go up then. But every boy's dream, and got the opportunity. But then the weather was horrendous. It was absolutely horrendous. And to be fair, I thought it was going to get called off. I really did, especially walking on the pitch before it in our Burton suits. Yeah, we had a little walk on the pitch, and I'm thinking, oh my, how are we going to play on here? This is horrific. It was just waterlogged. But I know it managed to go ahead and the rest is history, I suppose. Clarkey put the ball in, and we all celebrated.
You mentioned those Burton suits. Bizarrely, I've just had a delivery of video cassette players. I've just hooked up to a video
really?
and a guy used to basically record all of Anglia News' coverage in and around that.
Okay.
And there's an actual shot of you all at Burton's in those.
Oh, really? I remember it. I can remember it, yeah. In Queensgate, when I went up for little fittings, and it was a lilac. I'm sure it was a lilac shirt and a purpley tie. Oh, it was horrific. And a grey suit. Yeah, it's terrible. But, we looked the part, if I'm honest. And I think, I'm sure Darlington turned up in tracksuits, but I think we really made an occasion of it, which was fantastic, and that'll always stick with me.
Obviously, the year after, and obviously the players and the turnover of players, speaking to obviously people that we've done in this interview scenario, is that it's very hard to form a lot of relationships because people were coming and going. Was that hard because as a player who'd come through the academy as well, to sort of welcome these people in, knowing that they probably wouldn't be there 2 minutes?
It is because, but that was always the case at Peterborough. Obviously, with Baz as manager, he did like to have a huge squad and the people would be shipped in, shipped out. So it wasn't a case of, and that was my first experience of first team football. So I didn't know any different really. It just, you see some players come in for a couple of weeks and they were gone the next. So yeah, as you say, it's hard to get relationships with them, but it was a good nucleus. As I say, there was, I think, Eagle was there for years, Stevie was there for years, Cy Ray was there for years, and to be fair, the nucleus was a real strong group who, as you've already touched on, it had good experience there, but then there was also those young players around it, and then there was people brought in who would stay for a little bit, and then they'd usually get sold on for bigger money and things like that. So yeah, it was a good nucleus and it was a really good time. I absolutely love my time. I look back now and I just savour the moments. So like there's so many stories and things, and yeah, I just savour everything I've done, if I'm honest, especially at Peterborough. The
thing about it is when you say the word stories, immediately I think tell the stories, but you must have there must be something in football whereby you write down when you finish and say, I will not talk about.
Yeah, but you can't. You just cannot. You just cannot say. You can't, because I don't know. I'm a teacher now, so I'd hate for any parents to see. Well, if I did say a story, what used to go on and things like that. So you got to be careful. So I wouldn't want to shove anyone under a bus. So.
Let's phrase it differently then. In terms of the characters that you played with, obviously you played with a whole host of different individuals, some that were quiet like Tiles back in the day, obviously quiet now, but obviously back in the day, to other people who were so outlandish and so crazy. Who did you gravitate towards? Were you someone that wanted the lively one around you?
I was always pretty quiet, if I'm honest. My best mate is Gilly, and he's a bit lively, so I would say it was such a good mix, and we used to do things as a group, if I'm honest. So it was a big group thing. It wasn't a case of like, there's some people over there, and it was like different groups all around. We did pretty much as a group. A lot of us lived in Peterborough at the time, so we'd socialise in Peterborough, and and go to the cinema or go into town after training and do things together, whether that would be with partners or individually, to just the boys. So it was a real good group. I wouldn't say I gravitated towards any sort of different group more than any others, but I just say it was a real good group, and it did feel like a real close knit. Well, not like I wouldn't say family, but we were real close knit, and everyone knew about what was going on in each other's lives and things. It was just really, really a real nice atmosphere.
You must have got sent off in your career, because I remember Jeff Stelling saying that Jelleyman's throwing a wobbly. So he used to love your surname on Soccer Saturday, didn't he, in the early days?
He did, yeah. I think I've managed to get sent off about 4 times in my career, and I think he used it every single time. So, but to be fair, I quite enjoy it, if I'm honest. I remember the first time I was at Mansfield at the time, and I got sent off. It was late on. It was about the 90th minute, and I got sent off. And me and this other lad, we had a little scuffle, and we both got sent off. So I went in the dressing room, and I checked my phone, and then like a few of my mates from back home were saying, "Oh, Jeff Stelling's hammering you," and then so I was like messaging them back, and then the gaffer came in, the Mansfield gaffer came in, and he absolutely tore me to shreds, because obviously I'd missed the next 3 games or whatever. So yeah, it wasn't so good then, but I thought it was quite jovial at the time. But then obviously quickly changed when he was ripping into me. But when he bought out a book as well called Jelleyman's Throwing a Wobbly, and I remember having to do some interviews with him in local radio stations that he was doing. So I managed to chat to him quite a few times, and he sent me a signed copy and things like that. And he just said he'd see my name when I was at Peterborough, and he said he just thought, he came up with that saying, thinking, that'd work really well. So, and then he always looked out. Well, not in the back of it. He had it in the back of his mind. If I ever get sent off, then he would use it. So, and he just said, there was one day, it was a boring Saturday, not much had happened. Then the 90th minute, my name popped up, and I'd been sent off, and he thought, bingo, yeah. And then he used it, and then he used it another 4 times, and yeah, mate, yeah, it's quite a nice little thing, I think.
In terms of injuries, obviously, like most players, you suffered with injuries during your career. What was the hardest one to mentally?
It's definitely when I ruptured my patella tendon. I'd had terrible tendonitis in my knees from 18, 19. I think I got to about 20, and it was really bad. And I was having injections in my knees just to play games, really. And then just one day, I just went to shoot. It was in the snow at Bretton Gate, and I went to shoot, and my standing foot just gave way, and like my patella came around the side. It wasn't very nice. And the surgeon just said it just shredded away, really. So, but I was masking the pain because I was having injections, so I wasn't aware of the damage I was doing, really. So, but then I don't think I ever quite got back to how sharp I was, and I wouldn't say dynamic because I was never that powerful or anything, but I used to be quite sharp in that, and I never ever got quite that sharpness back, and never as quick as went before that. So, and that hindered me a bit because I did really like to get forward in that. So after that, and when I started to realise, I'm not quite the same player, I had to sort of adapt my game a little bit, and I wouldn't say focus more on defending because I always enjoyed that part of the game, but I did make that a bigger part of my game. And as I said, that when Wayne was there at the time, and I looked to play longer balls and things like that instead of trying to beat people and things. So it did definitely, definitely change the way I played, and I was a bit gutted when I look back. I'm a bit gutted that happened, if I'm honest. But you can't change anything. And I'm really happy with the career I had. So it's not a big.
And in terms of when you left Posh, in terms of permanently when you left Posh, what was that moment like for you? Because as I say, when you come through the academy and you're obviously making your debut and everything, no one ever thinks they're going to stay at a club for the rest of their career, but it must have been hard to leave.
It definitely was, yeah. But by that time, obviously, there's always a big turnover of players, and it had I wouldn't say the last few years, but it was always a case of, I always felt that I was looked at as being a young player all the time, even though by the time I left I was 25, but I still felt really young there, and I was looked at as being a young player, and sometimes, and it happens everywhere because I've played at many clubs and it happens everywhere, and the young lads, if there's something going wrong, they're always the first ones taken out of the team and things like that. They're always, I wouldn't say surplus, but it's easier to leave like a younger lad out than an established pro. And that's what I've found, even when I was like an experienced player and it's not happening, they don't get left out. They still get stayed, and it's always the young ones get. And I always felt I was like one of the young. I always felt like I was one of the young ones. And it does get to the. I remember running into Wayne Turner. I think we were playing Wickham away somewhere one year, and I ran into him. He was at the game, and he said, well, he said, you should have gone a few years ago because you're getting stale. And it resonated with me. And I'm thinking, you know what? He is right. He is right. Because you do need fresh challenges. You do. And you don't realise it. It does. I wouldn't say it's not easy, but not having something fresh and having to prove something to somebody, you need that challenge, a fresh challenge, and that's what I looked at when the time came. Baz never ever spoke to me, say I want you to go or anything. It was a case of, I think Mansfield came in for me. It was Carlton Palmer, and I think Bristol Rovers were coming in for me. I'd spent the first part of the season on loan because we bought Peter Kennedy in from Watford, as a left back, and it's every year they were bringing someone else in it as a left back, and then I have to establish myself again, which I did most of the time. And I wanted to play. So I said, "Can I go on loan?" And then I went to Boston for the first month, but then Baz pulled me back after about 3 games, and then I was playing regularly, and then it got to Christmas time, and we weren't doing very well. I think we were bottom or in the relegation zone, and these offers came in, and it was Mansfield, and they got into the playoffs the year before, and they were sitting just about there, and I thought, oh, do you know what, this could be the right time for me, and I can't really remember having a conversation with Baz, but then when it was happening, I remember going up to Mansfield on the Friday, and I trained, and I was supposed to sign and play on against Southend on the Saturday, but then the forms weren't signed in time, so then I had to ring Baz and said, oh, they're not signed in time, so they want to sign me on loan for a game. And me not thinking, if I'd have got injured, I don't know where that would have left me, because, well, obviously Baz weren't happy, and he was saying, no, because I think we had Forest, like Peterborough had Forest in the cup, and he was like, no, you're not going on loan. You'll start. I'll play you against Forest, and because I can't think who it was at the time, but he was saying he's struggling. You could come back and play against Forest. So I was like, oh, I don't know what to do, but in my heart of hearts, I knew my time was up really. So I ended up playing on loan, an emergency loan for 1 game, and then signing after. But it was sad. It was sad because I've had so many memories and so many good friends there, and it's the unknown, isn't it? I was a bit frightened of the unknown, but it turned out, well, personally, a good move. But yeah, it did, and I really enjoyed my time there as well.